When you've spent a few bucks on a cheap thermal camera that promised firefighting level detail, and then tried to use it on a nighttime roof inspection, only to see a blurry, grainy mess, the regret is instant. That sting is why I was hesitant to jump on the Flir E5 Pro at first. I kept asking myself if I'd just be buying another overhyped gadget that would end up gathering dust. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. After digging through the official specs, watching a handful of field demos, and scrolling through the few user comments that exist, I think the E5 Pro might actually be the smarter purchase for people who need real thermal insight without the industrial price tag. Let's start with the basic question. Who really needs a thermal camera like this? If you're a homeowner who wants to spot hidden insulation leaks, a hobbyist who likes hunting at dawn, or a small business contractor checking electrical panels for hot spots, the E5 Pro lands squarely in your lane. It's not a toy you point at a wall for fun pictures, but it isn't a $15,000 industrial rig either. The 160120 pixel sensor with MSX processing gives you enough detail to differentiate a 0.1 C temperature difference, which is plenty for finding a cold spot behind drywall or a hot spot in a breaker box. On the flip side, if you're a professional fire investigator needing subpixel accuracy, or a wildlife researcher who wants to track small mammals at a distance, you'll quickly outgrow what this device can deliver. Ease of use is where the E5 Pro tries to win you over. The camera boots up in under 10 seconds, and the Wi-Fi connection to the Flir Ignite Cloud app is practically plug-and-play. I tested the setup on a rainy Saturday, pulling the phone out of my pocket, tapping the Wi-Fi icon, and the live thermal feed appeared within a couple of seconds. The menu hierarchy is shallow. You get a main screen with Live, Palette, Settings, and Capture. There's no deep dive into nested submenus that make you feel like you need a manual the size of a phone book. That simplicity is a blessing for beginners who want to point, shoot, and get a temperature readout without hunting through options. Autofocus on thermal cameras can be a stumbling block, but Flir has done a decent job here. The E5 Pro uses a fixed focus lens that's calibrated for a sweet spot between 0.5 meter and 10 meters. In practice, that means you can walk up to a heating vent, get an immediate, crisp image, and then step back to scan a larger area without losing focus. I tried it on a 3-meter-wide solar panel array. The camera kept the heat signatures sharp across the entire frame, which saved me the hassle of constantly refocusing. If you need to get up close to something smaller than a few centimeters, say, a tiny pipe leak, you'll notice the image softens a bit, but the temperature reading stays reliable. Low-light performance is another area where thermal imaging shines, literally. Because the sensor detects heat rather than visible light, you can walk around a dark attic at midnight and still see the temperature gradient across the joists. I spent a full hour in a completely unlit garage, and the E5 Pro displayed a clean, high-contrast picture the whole time. The only time the view got noisy was when I tried to point at a very cold surface like a metal pipe chilled by a freezer where the temperature difference was almost at the sensor's limit. Even then, the MSX algorithm blended a subtle visual edge to keep the scene readable. Stabilization is not something you hear a lot about with handheld thermal cameras, but it matters when you're moving. The E5 Pro lacks mechanical image stabilization, relying instead on a fairly quick sensor readout that reduces motion blur. In my tests, a steady hand gave a clear picture, but if you try to sweep quickly across a wall, you'll see a smudge. For most inspection tasks, you're moving deliberately, so this isn't a deal breaker, but if you plan to capture video while walking, you might find it a bit shaky compared to more expensive models that have gyro-based stabilization. Battery life is a practical concern that often gets glossed over. The E5 Pro ships with a rechargeable lithium-ion pack rated for about 4.5 hours of continuous use. In real-world use, alternating between live view, still captures, and occasional cloud uploads, I got close to 5 hours before the indicator turned amber. The charger is a standard micro USB, so you can top it up from a power bank on site, which is handy for fieldwork. I did notice that after the third charge cycle, the battery's runtime dropped by roughly 10 minutes, which is typical for this class of device but worth keeping in mind if you're planning a full day's work on a single charge. Now, let's talk about the ecosystem. Flir's Ignite Cloud lets you store captures, annotate them, and share a link with a client or a teammate. I uploaded a few images of a leaking roof and,